getting certification, where to go, how to deal with this, and so on. Okay, so generally speaking, let me go over my notes for all the teams. What was important when you do a presentation? Present your team. The team has worked very hard to do this final presentation in order to accomplish something very specific that no one actually did. And I'll get back to that in a second. But presenting your team, that's very, very important. Also, go over what the project is about. Put everyone in the same perspective of what the project was all about, then move in with the school. Okay, some of you did it more or less in different ways. I'm not saying that you are being, by the way, you're not being graded on this. This is just tips I'm giving you when you do a presentation like this.
Well, it's been repeated many times, so maybe well, in our case we skip it. Like,
which is why I told them, like, I know you've heard 3 presentations, but that was not it was not supposed to be that way. You were presenting your own project, so that's why I insisted they presented part 2, which they omit.
Ah, okay.
Okay. Yeah, you skipped it all together, so I said no. Presented. Okay. Eye contact. If you're not comfortable catching the attention of your the public in general, I mean, at least look over their heads, and sometimes eye contact is difficult, but you have to get their attention somehow. Okay. What do I have also? Be careful of certain of your slides had dark writings over dark background. Which is why we had some times for you to test it on the PC, see how it looks like, go in the back and see. If you can see it in the back, everyone will be able to see it. It's just something you need to be careful about. Hand gestures, and one example I had was it was a story about it's about salesmen on the roads, just selling things and whatnot, representing pharmaceutical companies. What else? One guy actually asked his client, because he was selling less and less, I mean, his numbers were down, so he was actually asking his clients about what was going wrong, so he was not being able to sell so much. And his clients were basically saying, well, stop playing with your keys, it's annoying. And he was always like hands in the pocket and playing with the keys as he was presenting his products. Stop doing that. And he went like, wow, yeah, I am doing this, aren't I? So that was great. He stopped doing it, but he started like flipping coins instead. That's just a story to say, like, whenever you're presenting, make sure that you're not over exaggerating like hand gestures or tics. If you have a tic, try to correct it. Best way of doing that?
Have a shot before.
Present it in front of a mirror. Look how you look, and talk to the audience, which happens to be you.
In front of mirrors.
Hit the gym before.
You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. Practice in front of a mirror, and you'll notice you're doing something over and over again that you will want to correct.
Or film
So you were able to
yourself.
hide all
This
your
is
tics?
also a very good
Film
tool.
yourself.
You were
Guys,
able to hide all
it's the
your
best
tics?
way.
No, I have my.
No, I'm not.
I have my
You
eyes.
have plenty to correct.
Can I interject? I give a lot of trainings. That's what I do. And a lot of times, before I started, I always filmed myself and kept a lot of them as bloopers. So it's like, whenever I do an error, I go, why is it an error? So I look at me, and then I did a mini clip of all my bloopers. And trust me, guys, like it becomes, you're like a comedy show in front of everyone. So this is why filming or going to a mirror is amazing, because you look at yourself and you're like, I'm like that? I didn't know I was like that.
Exactly. Well, present it to someone that has absolutely no knowledge of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
If they go like all the time, like, so if you're using layman's term, they'll be able to go like, yeah, and that's what you want a customer to go. Yeah. So in the end, which is the point I made originally, which no one actually did, what were you here for? why did you present this for? Don't tell me for grades.
To get the contract.
Exactly. Who asked for the contract?
Sir,
What were
you gave
you
us the
here
contract?
for? Really? You were here for a multi-million-dollar contract. No one asked for it. No one asked to sign the contract. No one closed the deal. This is extremely important. This was a final presentation. If you have to do this in real life, never forget to close the deal.
They need to think.
No one closed the deal. No one.
Under pressure.
No one. So you have to say, like, prepare a conclusion. In conclusion, sir, we would like to take you out for lunch, and no need to bring your pen. We have one for you. There you
With our
go.
logo.
What am I asking for? Sign the contract.
14,000.
Anything but a closing line that says, here's who we are. I think we've proven that we can do this, and we'd like to thank you and take you out for lunch.
Margaritas.
Well, yeah, the
Late
drunkier they are, the easier it is. Anyways, just tiny things like that. Also, when you do a presentation, some of you did it, it was more or less done generally that you had an image and you were reading off a page, which is fine. You can read and show an image, but don't read what's there. Use less text as possible, put an image, and then read the text apart, explaining what the image is. This is very important because it's visual. And if it's too technical, if there's too much text, like, just send me the paper, I'll read it at home. No, they want to see an image and they want you to explain the image, layman's term. And you want them to go like, yes, 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 so you'll sign the contract, right? So they always go, yes, 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 there you go. And they go like, I don't understand what's happening, and so on, like, I'm losing them. Okay? The objective of this presentation was to get the client to agree to take you. That was the objective. But that's just tips for the presentation. What I did, I just took notes, following whatever emails I got whenever I received emails, and I'm preparing the final grades according to that. I'm repeating or reiterating the fact that you need to send me an email if you want to send me an email for the peer evaluation. I already got one which I totally ignored, right? I didn't need that email, but thank you. If you want to give 20% or that 20 points to everyone, I don't need an email. So I ignored your email.
So don't send email.
But if I get an email by tomorrow night, midnight, I'll consider it in the final grades for Thursday. So the deadline will be tomorrow night, midnight,
Don't send.
for peer evaluation, which means that in the team of 6, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, anyone can send me an email concerning the other 5, not you. You're not evaluating yourself, you're evaluating your peers. So the same goes for everyone. I want to see a team of 4, I want to see 3 names. Team of 6, I want to see 5 names. And yours will be excluded.
If we don't send you an email, what do you assume?
I'm assuming that you are giving your team, your teammates, the 20 points.
Okay.
Very generous.
Good.
So
My internet is down.
grades will be in. Grades will be in. I mean, I'll tally whatever I need to tally tomorrow, and then I'll wait for the email at midnight for Thursday during the day to finalize the grades, and I'll post them on the Cisco site. So you'll see what.
So this is 40%,
Yeah,
right?
there's 2 columns. One's for the TCS, the 40%. And there's another column which will be the grade, which actually will be pretty much the same as the weighted score that it has been accumulated so far in that column.
You will extend the practice exams as well, right?
And the practice exam, well, pretty much, am I done with this?
Oh, sorry.
Okay, pretty much done with this. Yes, no one asked for the contract, but if I have to give the contract, it would probably be a joint effort, because you probably noticed that some teams were way stronger in some areas than others, and vice versa. So it's like just like the last thing, because you went in last, and you are right here, and I noted it.
So we're gonna get the contract?
I'm just saying, for part number 4, the way that the one model was presented by using the packet flow, that one better explained more than anybody else why a 2-layer design was chosen by you. Just the way the packet flow, the traffic was explained. It was better presented than anybody else. Yeah, that portion, the land design. That, and there were, I would say, 2 very, very good solutions for the network layer. Not that none of you got it wrong. You all got it right, but 2 teams better presented the network layer in terms of the IP scheme. I would go like you guys, and you guys, you had a totally different approach. Did you really notice the approach they used?
Yeah, no, we have subnetting.
They used a Class C within the school, several Class Cs actually within the school. How many schools are there?
A lot.
Like 12 per school boards and 3 school boards at 36. They'll run out of Class Cs, private. But what did they do? They said, this is what we do for our school.
That's one thing.
And
that
we're
we have to
using
do for
netting to go out of our school to the school board, and we're taking the same solution and putting it to the other schools. So they all have the same IP scheme, same numbers. You had different numbers. You start with a 10, and then you split the 10 like pretty much everyone else did. And then you're just changing a number when you change school, which is a 3rd digit. The 3rd number changes when you change school from the same school board, and you're changing the second octave. Second octave when you change school board from a 10 address. Pretty much the rest the same thing. But it was better explained from them than it was from other teams. But they had a solution, which is the first for me in 10 years of teaching this, using an IP scheme within the school, using PAT to go out, and repeating it for as many schools as you have, as many school boards as you have. So they had a different solution. I don't know if you noticed the IP scheme,
But I was,
that's
you know
what
what I
they
was
did.
asking? I was wondering if you would ask us about that.
No. I wanted you to specify, push it, sell it.
I think
And I'm just saying that
We did.
you did.
I-
You said that it goes into one school and then out.
We did, I
the
think
you
school
did,
board
I
and
heard
out
it.
to the-
Okay.
But did they?
I don't know.
No, maybe we didn't.
I don't think
That was an
I don't
important
think-
point.
I don't think the impact was.
That was an important
But you
point.
saw that,
Remember
yeah.
what I said? It's exportability.
Yeah.
It makes or breaks the project. Remember when I said that, whoever was in the meeting with me? It makes or breaks the project. And your solution should have made that project win you the contract. But I'm just saying, you're not graded on the fact that you did not present it by pushing it more. But I'm just saying, this was a good point to make in that part of the project. Physical layer, pretty much everyone got it the way it's supposed to be. Data link was weaker in some areas, stronger in others. I had one. Which one did I? Well, more or less, it's pretty much equal. Oh yeah, I noted one thing. Who was it? It was yeah, your team. You came back with a similar slide, simply replacing some aspects in one of the slides, which is good because we've already seen it. It was very, very visual. Not too much text, just like drawings and showing the hubs and switches and so on. And then you came back with the same one by changing just a few things, which is good because we've already seen it. Now we're seeing it again, but with a better aspect or explaining it further. That was good. I like that. What else? What else? What else? Well, that's pretty much it. Yep, pretty much it. Dry run, right. to avoid snags, I wrote it down for you guys because the website or the web links, I had it twice. Two teams presented it to me over 10 years. You did, another team did the same thing. But you probably noticed like lack of practice, like where do I go now and where do I click?
The organization for.
Yeah.
It's, you know, it's very hard to do it smooth, like the first time and like.
I agree. So have to practice
We didn't
before you
practice
present it,
it.
especially this because it should have been like clicking from one link
I'll take that point.
to automatically go to the next hyperlink to get you to the next stage. And then just, it should have been like an easy flow through each section,
was the
especially if it's
idea.
a web and it clicks to the
I
next
was
one.
expecting more questions from you.
Well, I saw the content and I didn't want to bother with too much question because I would have had too many because if you went from one link to the other and I went, okay, never mind that. I went like, okay, covered. Oops, no, part two. Go back to part two, present part two. And then, okay, and so on. But it's about being graded on the content and not the way you present it. I'm just giving you tips, you know, about presenting. And if you do those kinds of training, then you can relate to that as well. Any questions on TCS?
He's going crazy with the camera there.
It was a big one, right? TCS is a big project. So we tackled it one part at a time. And in the end, like it's all done. Pressures and release and so on. That's
For
good.
the project TCS, the aspect of pricing and
I had to take it out because if I keep the
yeah, but
pricing in there, it
real
like
life, what do
goes
you,
crazy.
in real life, what do you recommend? Do you put the prices? You don't put them?
But since you are mentioning pricing, I did mention a question in the end because I didn't want to ask any of the other three teams that same question, which I did for the fourth one because I want to bring it back and I forgot now I'm bringing it back. It was about the service contract for the equipment. You're presenting one school, which means like in the end probably around 500 to 600 PCs, perhaps a dozen printers, a few servers. You've got some switches and routers in there, a router and switches. But the contract was about getting the entire project. And the IP scheme, I said, well, you have to take into account that the number of schools might double, the number of school boards might double. So for one school, you're looking at about 600 PCs. And there's about 40 schools to start with. So like 4 times 6, 24. Quite a bit of PCs, like 24,000. And that may double. So
That's
yeah,
buying power.
I'm not going to buy PCs. As the customer, I will not buy the PCs. I would want a service contract and a leasing contract for those equipment. Because from year to year, like yeah, it might double from 250 to 500. That was the scheme. And if it does, next year, I go from 250 to 500 PCs in the school, and all schools, for that matter. What about the year after? If I buy the equipment, I'm stuck with them if we need to downgrade. So if they're leased, take them back. Next year, we might need more, and the year after, we need less, and so on. So leasing the equipment instead of buying it. Service contract. That's why I brought it up in the last team. And can you help us with that? And you still, like, you kept pushing, well, you need to negotiate with companies. And I did ask you, can you help me? I was looking forward to say, yes, we'll do the work for you, sir. We'll work for you, and so on. Push to get the contract, because I don't know nothing about computers, and you're telling me, go and shop for them. Which one should I buy? See my point?
No,
I was looking for,
we did
yes,
that, but I mean,
we'll
Robbie
be,
told you, right?
we'll be like right there with you, sir, and we'll go and help you negotiate. So you did mention you would help us negotiate. Then you said, well, you go and need to go and shop for them. But can't you be there with me, please? I was fishing for you to be like alongside with me to get the service contract.
Of course, that's what would happen in real life. Right?
In real life. But you're talking about 20,000 pieces of equipment, and you're not going to be the ones taking care of them. Personally, you're not. So you want a service contract. You want a bigger player to be along with you. You designed this You want to implement it, you're not even laying down the cables. You're dealing with an outside firm to do that. You have an IP scheme. You may not be the ones actually implementing it, but you'll be supplying in this scheme. There's only 5 or 6 of you. That's it. We're talking about like 40 schools. Ouch. And besides,
Won't be busy for a
if,
long time.
exactly, and you don't want to be busy for a long time. You want to move on to the next project. So you want to surround yourself with the proper people, the proper companies to supply
You hire a
the
consultant.
demand. Subcontractors, basically, under you as a consultant attached to the project, that if they need to call you and, you know, maybe the leasing of equipment is not running well and they want you to go back into it and so on, yeah, there you go. But in the meantime, you did this for about 1.5 years and you want to move on. There's other projects waiting for you. It's like an architect. An architect does not design one building and sticks with it. He designs one building and there you go. Contractors do it. I'm moving along and designing the next one. That's what you want to do. So it's not like a one project thing that you stick to it the whole life. So service contract, lease and whatnot, and there you go, the work is done, I'm happy,
We're
but
the
I'll be
only ones that
here.
brought it up.
Sorry?
We're the only ones that brought it up.
Well, I did ask the question. Yes, you're the only one who brought it. Actually, I'm glad you did, because you were the last one, because I didn't want to ask the question for the others, but you did bring it up, and I said, that's good, because I want to bring it up and basically ask that
That's
question.
pretty much what would happen, right?
It has to be, because you cannot handle 20,000 pieces of equipment with 6 people. It's impossible.
Oh, we have a call center in Manila.
There you go, yes, it's true, yes. I
With
know.
14
Don't forget
IT.
Guatemala.
But by all means, don't tell them they're
$1
from
a day.
Manila.
I know.
But that's the point.
I wanna
That's
jump
the
in
point.
Manila.
That's this project. And a project like that, of course, could be used as a, how should I put this, as a
There's 3 now.
a blueprint. A blueprint that you can take
Where you guys work?
and work with that blueprint in order to prepare a real life project. If you happen to work in the IT world and you are asked to prepare something, probably less bigger than this, but if you are asked to do something, this could be a blueprint to help you prepare for a typical project like that. Anyways, any questions about the TCS? Yep,
About the FTDI.
sorry?
About the FTDI.
Oh yes, the FDDI. Well, in the project, because you have to present one school, but in the end, you are presenting a school to get the entire project, FDDI for one school is probably not the right place to put this. It's very expensive. You need special training, special equipment, and monitoring. It's a very nice architecture, but the best place to put this is probably between the school boards. Probably not the link between the school board and the schools, because we're talking a T1, but between the school boards. What's a FDDI? What is the topology, by the way, for FDDI?
Okay.
It's a ring. It's a dual physical ring.
Yeah.
In this case, for the school boards, you've got a quadruple physical ring.
Yeah.
That's a very nice place to implement FDDI. The rest, a mixture of Ethernet and token ring. Ethernet, most likely. Token ring, probably not, but token ring might still be an option. But most likely Ethernet in the school. And FDDI, a potential, but like an option. Point-to-point links is still okay. Redundancy is still built in. But as a potential architecture between the school boards, FDDI would be
FDDI
interesting.
between the school boards, aren't you going by, so it's, you're using T1 links between the school board, aren't you? Well, we didn't really deal with implementing the school board, but isn't it T1 links between the buildings?
They're T1s, but what kind of link is it? Is it
goes-
copper?
It's copper.
Could be fiber.
Well, depends, whatever the
T1,
telco.
T1 identifies the bandwidth, not the actual physical link that bandwidth is running on. So if it is fiber optics, well, T1 is kind of slow for fiber, but if it is T1 running over fiber, you can implement FDDI. Otherwise, if it's running over copper, then you implement CDDI. The F is for fiber and the C is for copper.
But I mean, if you have your, it's the telco that puts the T1 in. You know?
Yeah, I know, I'm just saying
The
that,
telco brings it to the DMARC, you know, so I mean, you just see the pair.
no, I know, but you can still use FDDI architecture over this, even if it's their links. You can still use FDDI architecture over this thing. FDDI is for long distance type of links. Linking, like I know Videotron has installed FDDI, and they're probably linking Montreal, Sherbrooke, Quebec, or Trois-Rivières, or something like that. This big environment with FDDI. It's very expensive, but once implemented, they extend the LAN fabric throughout that FDDI.
I never saw it, to be very honest. I'm not contradicting you, but I'm saying I never saw it.
You probably
What I saw was
won't
dark
be-
fiber.
Yeah.
I saw dark fiber, and they basically call it dark fiber
But
because
you
they-
only need a point-to-point on that dark fiber. I'm just saying it's on this link. If you want to manage what goes on, you need an architecture. Just like in the school here, if you want to manage the way the PCs are communicating together, you need one or two or a combination of architectures. In this case, it's Ethernet. But if you want to manage that type of link outside, like all the links between the school boards, if you want a full management of it, the link may not belong to you, but the architecture you put on it might be yours and yours to manage. I'm just saying, if that's what you wish, you could implement FDDI in that environment and keep it Ethernet within the school.
I don't understand, but I don't see it, but never mind, it's okay.
It's expensive. I'm just saying that because he brought it up, like, if there's a place for FDDI, that would be the place, but not in the school. You need special equipment. Fiber is fine, but the equipment and the training. Speaking of training, once this is in place, who will manage the troubleshooting? Who will handle the fact that a PC is not working properly? Well, here we have Denise and Josephine taking care of the PCs whenever they break. But this is software-wise. If the PC itself breaks, what do? They don't fix it themselves. The equipment does not belong to Chambly College. It's been leased. So they just take it, replace it with another one that works, and they have an image on it, and they bring it on the rack, and it disappears, and they go to whoever needs to repair it, and it comes back later. So who's responsible internally for fixing those problems, or which problem should be fixed internally, and which problems are fixed externally? A router breaks. No one actually told me what I wanted to hear about the router. The router breaks.
Yeah.
What happens?
Manufacturer.
Buy a new one. Service contract. What kind? 1, 4 hours, 8 hours? What's the
Well, if you
downtime?
gold member, you get 4 hours.
That's the actual router.
With Cisco.
We said that
The
we have
router
one
breaks,
spare
what do you
sitting
do?
with the same config.
Sorry.
We said that we have one spare brother sitting with the whole config like next to it.
One spare
One.
for the school board?
Road,
Yes.
That's good. Having one spare, if we're
the
talking
full
about the 12,
configuration.
a dozen school, maybe doubling that to 24 school plus a school board, we're talking about 25 routers. Having one spare is good. That's good.
That's the one that we have the default configuration of the whole ACL that we at the beginning developed. When we plug in, it's working.
Yeah.
And then you have to configure on top where it's done after.
I agree. Like 1 per 25 for a router and having like 1 per 10 for switches. So you can have a spare switch per school and a spare router per school board. That would be acceptable. But another solution will be simply having a proper service contract, 1 hour downtime, 4 hour downtime, 8 hours downtime, whatever the case may be.
So it's your SLA.
Yeah.
The service level.
Service level agreement, exactly. So I was looking for that somewhere, and you brought the service contract for the PCs, but that also applies
No,
for the
that's
switches, the
different, right?
routers, the servers, and whatnot.
But your IT staff will take care of that. You know, that's why we need to go into that.
They'll take care of certain internal problems, just like Denise is responsible for certain parts problems internally.
Let's say your router, like, what do you have here, Del? What do you have for?
Probably a 4-hour,
No, but what do you have for equipment? Like, do you have only one router going on?
only one.
So you don't even have a backup? You only have one?
Only one.
Just a primary?
Yeah.
So what do you have? What series router is it?
For example, do you remember which one it was? No, at 36.
Yeah.
It's a 3600?
3600 was it? Yeah.
So you have a 3600, what happens if that router goes down? Like I've seen, like for example, like I went to the airport, and the primary router went down and they're back up on it, they're on the backup. And so
on an airport, I would definitely have a backup router on site.
they have like a 7200. They have a 7200, but I mean.
Exactly, you hope so.
But
They
I
need
mean,
it.
yeah, if the router goes down, it's.
Yeah. It's,
Yeah,
I know,
yeah,
it's
it's
for an
big
airport,
fire.
you need one for emergency building, whether it's a fire department or even a hospital, they need
What
one.
happens if the router fails downstairs?
It's not that critical, but I
But
think
what
they
would
have a
happen? Like
4-hour.
the staff would take care of it.
If it's a physical problem, I think it's a 4-hour type of downtime.
Do you have a subcontract? Yeah, comes in and takes care of it.
Yeah, it's an outside source, outsource.
Okay.
Yeah. Internally, they take care of the
But would that necessarily be the same people who did the installation?
probably. I would say yes. I would say yes.
Hi to the camera.
Oh, pour la toilette. C'est bon, merci. So if you leave the other side, just make sure you lock the door. Not this one, it's the other one.
Leave the door open?
Is it locked? Yeah.
It's fire hazard. We need
Okay,
emergency.
so that leaves us with what's going on next. So for CCNA, who's done a certification exam, no matter what it was, Microsoft, A+, Network Plus, Cisco, whatever, okay, so you know where you need to go. Was it here in Montreal?
Yeah. There's one in Key.
But you know you need to register and make an appointment and then show up, strip down, strip search and so on, and then you walk into a room with cameras, and then you sit down at a computer that is assigned for you, and then the exam pops up, and that's all you have access to.
Are you serious? You're not serious about the strip search?
No.
No.
For you,
Airports, states.
I'll make an exception. Okay, but that's the way it is done. Whenever you do a certification exam, Cisco or whichever else. In Montreal, there used to be one place only that accepted those certification exams. Now there's 3 or 4. Where you need to go is, I can probably take a quick look, but whether it's Cisco or otherwise, it's view.com or Pearson View, that probably brings you to that place. Pearson View Montreal, probably. Oh, Cisco certification testing, Pearson View. Okay, let me get you to the, yeah, there it is, pearsonview.com. So I'll leave it there just for you to see it.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yes, to come.
Those guys need it.
Okay, so it's Pearson View, pearsonview.com.